The topic that I chose to talk about was trust-based relational interventions and the importance of it to new teachers is that teachers coming from universities or colleges don't normally get the kind of training that they really need when they get into the classroom when it comes to social and emotional learning. We do a lot on our campus with social emotional learning, TBRI, trauma-informed practices. So knowing that this topic is really important, especially in middle school, knowing that the brain is not fully developed, not even close to it yet, teachers tend to forget that. And it's just not new teachers, it's all teachers. So we do this training at least once a year to give teachers tips on how to deal with children, how to look for signs, how to build those relationships. And that's why I picked it as my topic. So the objectives for this training, and we do plan on doing this when we get back on our campus, is to discover that the COVID-19 has had traumatic effects for our students in many, many ways, socially, emotional, academic. They are in some serious situations at home. Demonstrate an understanding of the hand model of the brain, which then will help us understand the importance of the development of the adolescent brain. We should be able to synthesize the results of ACEs for our students. That will be a list of adverse childhood experiences that affect students that come from homes of trauma. Hopefully they'll be able to generate a list of activities to use in the classroom that will help their students that do have these issues, and even students that don't. It just helps to regulate the brain. And of course, they're going to reflect on their learning. So in this video, Dr. Dan Siegel goes through a hand model of the brain where his wrist is the brain stem, the bottom part of the hand is the limbic area, where the fight-flight response is, and then it goes up to the cortex of the brain, which would be the thumb part when it's tucked in, and that's where the thinking and reasoning begins, and then it goes up to the frontal lobe, which is right behind the forehead, that regulates emotion. And so it shows that children, of course, just kind of hang around down at the bottom part of the brain and in the limbic area, and they've got to develop all the way up to the frontal lobe. And so it talks about the process of that, and also talks about the research that, the numbers have gone up of the ages of children's full frontal lobe development in males is 32 years old now. It's really interesting information. And then here it's talking about reaching the brain. So there's a process that Dr. Bruce Perry talks about when helping vulnerable children. And, let's say, for example, a student's tapping a pencil in the classroom. The teacher asks him to stop, and then the student has a huge outburst. It seems really unreasonable to other people, but to him, there's a reason why it happened. What a teacher has got to first do is let the student regulate. What a lot of new teachers will tend to do is get into a confrontation with the student over something this small. And it's really important that teachers understand that there's a reason that these students are doing what they're doing, and having those conversations with them to figure out what is bothering them will help to build that communication. And that's where the relate part comes in. They should be able to relate to the teacher, have a calm conversation with them, and they'll be able to reason. Why did you get upset? Can you tell me more about that? Because there is a reason behind that behavior. In this YouTube, it's Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, and she talks about the toxic stress and the ACEs, and those are the adverse childhood experiences, and she talks about ACEs, and these are the ACEs that she's talking about. And students that have these, the more that they have, the more they're going to have physical problems, the more they're going to have emotional problems. And each student in a school building has had at least one of these. So just having one of them puts them a little bit more at a higher risk. But students that have 5 or more, of course, they're going to have the health problems, the behavior problems, and the life potential problems. And these are the students that fall into the cracks. These are the students that we lose. And the important part of building the relationships is to understand, what do these children need? How can we help them to be successful? A lot of on our campus, we understand the development of the brain, and sometimes the academics is just not going to come, just won't get there for 6th through 8th grade. But our goal is to get them emotionally regulated and do what we can to support them, so that they know that somebody does believe in them, and then when they go on to that next level, that they have that foundation of wanting to succeed because they know that people truly believe in them. During this age, the brain is developing a lot. Brain research shows that kiddos at this age they're relearning like 2-year-olds again. So basically what the hormones have done is, I always envision it like an Etch-a-Sketch. It got everything, all the connections that they made at this time in their lives, that Etch-a-Sketch got shaken, and the brain is trying to make those connections again. They have so much going on. But having those home traumas is what really puts them more at risk at school. And teachers have got to understand that and be compassionate to that. So I mentioned before, talking about the what if. What if, we're just curious about their behaviors, having those conversations with them. Yes, it is very time consuming to get to know children at this level, but it is so important. For example, we have once a week, we have our SEL, our social emotional learning lessons. And during that time, we have teachers have these hard conversations and these intimate conversations as a class. We have some teachers that do a really, really good job of implementing this type of activity into their 90-minute block to build community, to get to know the kids on an individual basis, so that they know when they do behave in a manner that is just out of the ordinary, they can have that conversation. Where did that come from? Why did you say that? Why did you do that? Why was that your reaction? And that gives that child, that student, that sense of safety and security. So a lot of stuff that comes across as rude and disrespectful, there's those underlying messages. And again, with the trauma-informed languages, students that we say are avoidant, for example, they're in flight survival mode. There's a reason why they're not doing their work. There's a reason why they're not getting to class on time. There's a reason why they're acting out, seeking attention. Those children are seeking that person that's going to sit down and have that connection with them. When I first got into teaching, this was really hard for me to wrap my mind around. I was that teacher that was, I'm the teacher and this is how it should go. And I feel like that's still what our teachers are being taught. Our new teachers are being taught in the classrooms, and they're not really being exposed to the trauma behind a lot of our kids. I have a daughter right now who's going to graduate from Texas State next year, and she's taken nothing like this. And thankfully, I'm able to have these conversations with her. I'm lucky enough that she's a substitute at the school where I work. She can see these things firsthand. She knows how to handle some of these things. But, being in her own classroom is going to be really, really different. But me having these conversations with her about, I got to get to the root of what that problem is. What's going on with that kiddo, making that connection with them. So we need to get away from it's just being a defiant to there's an underlying reason why they are acting and behaving this way. So in order for our children to get past this, and the things that we have to do in order to help them are these 6 R's. And so the next few slides is when we'll do like a breakout session and give each group a set of activities. So they'll get one of each of these. They'll get one with the walking, running, dancing, drumming, tapping, singing, breathing, movement, and music. And we will ask them to, make that connection between the repetitive, the pattern, the rewarding, the pleasurable. How do those activities help to build these 6 R's? What are these activities? So if you look at drumming, okay, so tapping on the table, that's annoying to some teachers. They don't like that. That is actually a way to regulate children, is to tap or drum on something. And yeah, it's annoying, but it's fun and it helps to regulate students. Dancing around the room. Like I said, a lot of these activities aren't just for those kids that have that high need for all of this movement and the repatterning. It's all students can use this, and that way students don't feel like they're being pointed out. So one thing that I saw a teacher do this past year, and I was really, really impressed by it, was she was giving her whole class instructions on a lesson that she wanted them to do for a writing assignment. And as she was doing that, she took them through a walk in the garden. She said the first few times that she did that, it was kind of distracting to the students, but the more that they practiced it, the better they got at listening to what she expected from them and the activity, instead of being focused on what was actually out there in nature. But the actual walking and paying attention really helped to center these kiddos. So I thought that was really interesting. So they'll talk about all of these activities with the goal in mind of what could they do and take it back to their classroom. What could be effective for them. So at the very end, I'd give them this reflection survey about TBRI, just questions that might have come up during the time, how we can help them some more, because that's our job as counselors on our campus, is to help these teachers, be there for them, support them. This is not a let's do this training and we're done. This is a definitely, we've got to check on you weekly. We have to check on you every other day. We need to do checks. We need to have these conversations. How can I help you? These are ongoing conversations. They've been ongoing for the 4 years that I've been there. And then, of course, the survey at the bottom, which are going to link directly back to our objectives so that I can ensure that they've gotten the whole concept of what I needed them to get. The biggest thing with this training, though, is that it is a nonstop evaluation. It's doing those walkthroughs and, being there for the teachers. And we have, thankfully, a good enough relationship with our teachers where we can walk into the classroom and they don't feel like we're watching them. They know that we're there to help them. So we're always there to help with that. But this is something that's definitely an ongoing thing. Like I said, this is I'm going into my 5th year now of being at this school, and we've done it every year since, and it just gets stronger and stronger.